JT Crowley is Talking Books. On the show, you'll hear from emerging talent and seasoned veterans from around the world.
Hello, and welcome to Talking Books. I'm JT Crowley, your host. And today I warmly welcome Dr. Patricia Mosto to talk about her book, Cooking with Tita. Now, Dr. Patricia is a Professor and Dean Emeritus from Rider University in Lawrence Township, New Jersey, in the United States. She presently lives in Reston, a community town in Virginia, close to Washington, D.C. She was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, from Italian abstraction. And the recipes that are within this book are handed down to her from her mother and are in English and Spanish. And for those of you who very smartly noticed that I have 3 granddaughters sitting with Dr. Patricia, they were involved with the book as well because they were helping out doing the cooking. So she's been joined by her 3 granddaughters, everybody. So I would like to say, Dr. Patricia and all the granddaughters, come and join me on the show.
Hi.
Before we open this culinary book of yours, would you care to tell the audience who you are, Dr. Patricia, and why you wrote the book, and why the title Cooking with Tita, and why did you get your granddaughters involved?
Okay. Well, when I came from Argentina to the United States, my mother, and you can see by the color of the pages how old this book is, she made a book of recipes of the things that I really like the most about cooking with my mother or with my grandmothers. So when I retired and moved to Reston, I thought it would be ideal to cook those recipes with my granddaughters, not only to teach them how to cook, but also to teach them a little bit about where the food come from and where were my memories being young. And the name Tita is the way they call me. They don't call me grandma or abuela. They call me Tita. So that's why we are cooking with Tita. And so I started cooking with them and recording how fun it was doing this and what my memories was. And then I thought, it would be very interesting to know something about the history of the particular dish. And then collapsed everything into those entries in the book with the recipe included.
Who does the washing up?
Mostly me. They did the mess. I did the washing up.
Yeah, you've got to wash up. Even the best chefs have to wash up, everybody. Now, before we open up this book, as I said, Pat and I have had a discussion beforehand. Now, there are 11 recipes here. And as I said, the recipes are in English and they are in Spanish. And each recipe gives you a history of the dish. There is also a list of the ingredients and how to prepare the food. That's what each one is about. Now, we're not going to go to all 11 recipes because if you want to find out what the recipes are about, go and buy the book and find out for yourself. But we are going to give you a flavor of what some of the recipes are. So I'm going to start off. And of course, it's Cooking with Tita, so the granddaughters were all heavily involved in making the sauces and making a whole variety of the menus. That's why they're here on the podcast with Tita, because they were cooking with Tita. Now, I'm going to make an apology straight away because I'm going to get some of these pronunciations wrong. I'm going to do my best, but some of them will be wrong. Now, let's start with empanadas.
Empanadas.
Empanadas. Told you I'd get it wrong. So Pat, what's the history and the tradition behind this dish? Now, I understand that local areas have their own specialities. Some do it with meat, some do it with fish, some do it with cheese, some with corn. And again, different countries have their own different ways in putting the recipe and the dishes together. Some bake them, some fry them. So Pat, tell us the history, what goes into them, and how you put them together. And do you have a favorite?
Okay. The empanadas is probably one of the most traditional Argentinian food that you get. Every party you will get empanadas. In restaurants, before you order your meal, you get 1 or 2 empanadas for free as an appetizer. People who work all day, it will go out, buy a couple of empanadas and eat them as lunch because they're like a pastry you can hold and eat with your hand. So the history of the empanada, it's a typical Italian dish that came to Argentina probably Argentina had a large immigrant population of Italians. Actually, 40% of the country are from some sort of Italian descent. And I choose the empanadas because of that quality, because everybody who think of Argentina will think about, oh, we're going to eat empanadas. And the girls choose the menus and what was going on, and one choose the meat empanadas, and the other choose the cheese and onion empanadas. And one thing when you do the empanada is that to close the dough, you do a movement that's called repulgue. And Liana, you would want to add something.
Yes. So the twisting of the empanadas to close them, there are like many different ways that you could, and it was usually depending on the type of empanada that you were making. If you were making a meat one, you were usually using the twisted method where it looked like a spiral going around. And if you're making a cheese and onion one, you would usually use a fork and like press down on it to make the little marks to close them.
Interesting, isn't it, everyone?
Yeah, and as I mentioned in the book, I mean, it's such a typical Argentinian thing, and to the point that each region of Argentina has their own kind of empanadas, like what they go inside and how they're cooked, either, like you mentioned, fried or baked.
So what's your favorite?
I like the cheese and onion.
I like the meat ones.
Yeah,
Me too.
my favorite are definitely one of the meat ones.
So let's go and have a look at another recipe, everybody. And Pat, in your book, you talk about the many memories you have about, I'm going to do my best, everyone here, milanesas.
Very good.
Oh, and that most Argentinians have a fondness for. And so could you tell us the history behind the milanesas, what goes into making them, and what's the best way to prepare and make them?
Okay, well, it's my favorite food to the point that every time I go to Argentina, my family know that I'm going for dinner, and there's always the first meal is milanesas, which is like a breaded meat, and Amaya is going to talk about how much fun she had making it. But I have, for example, you eat them warm with mashed potato. That's the most common thing. Or in restaurants, they serve it with French fries. And some people put an egg on top of the milanesa, and they call it a caballo, we mean on horse, which I searched where that came from, and I could not find exactly, except the fact that the egg kind of go like that over the milanesa, and it looked like you're sitting on a horse. A very common dish that when it's cold, you make sandwiches that you can take to picnics. I remember many picnics when I was young, being very young, all the way to just being a teenager and going on my own, always having sandwiches de milanesa. And I have a funny story of one time it's a meal you eat hot, it's a meal. And I had a friend from the United States visiting with me in my aunt's house. And of course, the first meal she made was the milanesas. And the next, there were some leftovers. They were in the refrigerator. They were cold. And the next morning, breakfast in Argentina is continental breakfast. And we sit with coffee and fast pastries. And my friend goes to the refrigerator, get the milanesas, and start eating milanesa cold. And you wouldn't believe the face of my aunt. I mean, she couldn't. What are you doing? And the funny thing is, 1 or 2 days before coming back to the States, I go to the pharmacy in the neighborhood to get some medicine and to say hi to the pharmacy who knew me. And I introduced my friend, and she said, "Oh, is she the American who eat the cold milanesas?" So my friend became famous in Argentina for eating cold milanesas. Now, the preparation of milanesas is an interesting one, right, Amaya?
Yeah, it was so much fun. We had different like stations where you would like put egg on the meat and then you would bread them.
But
And
first, what do you do with the meat? You pound it.
yeah, that was my favorite. Yeah, it was just like so much fun. Me and Liana would like when we were like frying them, and I don't know, it was just like one of my core memories.
So basically, it's like a little piece of meat pound that you go by egg and salt, pepper, and then you bread it and then you fry it.
That sounds wonderful. But
They are very good.
But I can just
It's
imagine.
my daughter's favorite too.
I could just imagine, the cold Milanese, bit like cold pizza from the night before.
Yeah.
Now, Amaya and Liana and Camille, I understand that your grandmother has Italian heritage in her blood, hence the gnocchi. Would you care to tell us, girls, what goes into making a good gnocchi dish and how do you make it?
Well, they're usually made by potatoes and flour, and you like make the dough and then you form it into like a little sort of like square round pieces, and then you stick a fork into them to make little holes, and then you fry them.
No, you boil
Oh, you
them. Boil them.
Yeah.
It's a pasta dish. And it's an interesting story about the gnocchi. In Argentina, everybody eats gnocchi on the 29th of the month. It's a common thing. People get together in the houses for the gnocchi on the 29th. And there is, when I was looking, there were a couple of different stories. One is that basically is a dish that is it's cheap to prepare because it's flour and potatoes. And therefore, at the end of the month, when there is no more money to make food, this is a very common thing to eat. That's one of the stories. The other one, that there was a famous person in Argentina, a famous writer, that every 29 invited different authors to have meals at her house, and she tends to prepare always the gnocchi. So it became a tradition to have gnocchi on the 29th. So those are the two main stories I found. And it's very common, as I said, in Argentina, that people will eat gnocchi on the 29th of the month.
Do you four eat gnocchi on the 29th of each month?
No. No. They're empanadas, milanesas, gnocchis. They take a lot of time to do. It's not a kind of a meal that people in Argentina had probably more time in their hands than here. Like my grandmothers who made the gnocchis, or my aunt or my mom, they didn't work, so they have the time to do that kind of meals. But it takes a lot of time to do the gnocchi. And there was flour all over my apartment.
I wonder who did the tidying up. I don't think it was the granddaughters for some strange
No.
reason. No. Now, when I looked at your book, Pat, and when I saw the recipe with the word octopus in it, I thought, I've got to go to this one. Now, I have to say, everybody, I am not a fan of octopus. So I had a look at this one. And of course, so it's octopus casserole. And as one of the dishes talked about in the book, I thought, who's going to tell me about the octopus casserole? Now, I know it's not just the octopus casserole that you put together here. There's eggplant in sweet and sour sauce, and there's bread pudding. Who put this recipe together? Come on, girls, tell me.
Amaya pick up the octopus. I think you did the eggplant, and Camila was old enough to cook, and she chose the bread pudding. So that's the combination.
So how did you put it together, girls?
Yep, everybody pitched. And Amaya, what was your experience with the octopus?
I really like octopus. It was like, I remember, what was it?
The whole thing.
Yeah. And I remember me and Tita used to like, did we fry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would fry the octopus and then put it in the casserole, and it was really fun.
But she got a little stun off with the gooey and gelatinous
Yeah.
of the uncooked octopus.
Who did the bread pudding?
Camila and I did the bread pudding. She was old enough that she was helping us cooking. I don't think she remembered much. What do you think, Camila?
Really.
Yeah, she doesn't remember much, but that was probably one of the first dishes that she cooked with me and choose as a dish that day.
Yeah. As I said, everybody, there are 11 recipes here, and there's the first part of the book is in English, and the second part is in Spanish. Now, one of the recipes that caught my eye was arroz con pollo and leek soup. Now, I like a good soup, but this leek soup you are serving up with arroz con pollo, rice with chicken. Now, I believe, Liana, you in the book concentrated on the arroz con pollo, and Amaya, you did the leek soup. Talk to me, girls, about this recipe, and then I'll ask Tita to give me the history behind it.
That was one of the recipes I didn't remember as well, but
It was probably one of the first she picked, and she was
Yeah.
young when we started cooking. But basically it's such a common dish in all Latin America. I mean, that has a Spanish origin, so most of my family is from Italy, but some of my family marry into people from Spanish heritage. My favorite aunt, for example, her parents were Spanish, and she used to cook the arroz con pollo very, very often. But it's a very, very common dish all over the Caribbean, Mexico, and all the way down, all the Americans. And it was brought by the Spaniards. And, there are different condiments depending on the region of the world where you eat the arroz con pollo. For example, in Puerto Rico, some people put beans, arroz, and the chicken. And so we made one with green peas and morrones, which is the red peppers. That's the one that we choose to do. That was the one that my mom recipe called for. But it was my aunt who mostly cooked that for me.
Ah,
Yeah.
fascinating.
So that's a fun memory for me because she was my favorite aunt, and when she would do she was going to cook, she would call me and said, "You want to come for dinner? I'm doing a rock composure."
Yes, please. I'll be around. Quick.
Yes, 2 blocks away.
The leek soup, Amaya.
Yeah, I also don't remember that one as well. It was
Do you know, this is a funny thing, when I was growing up, we have like market fairs, selling the fresh food. They were every Tuesday and Thursday, they will come completely take over one street, and the farmers will sell you all of the product. The interesting thing is, normally, well, you buy potatoes, tomatoes, and then for free, they will give you leeks. Leeks were very common, and they will give it to you. So my mom and my aunt will use them to make soup. And you do leeks in many ways in Argentina during that time. Right now, I don't think that is still in fashion, but it was very interesting that you will come home after doing your shopping with a bunch of leeks, and where are you going to use it to do a soup? It was perfect since we ate soup almost every day. So
I love leeks.
me too.
Now, Pat, you wanted to do the last recipe on fondue. That was your choice.
That's my choice. It was my choice for many reasons. Most of my family came from northern Italy, but I have a great grandfather that has some French roots. So the fondue come from that route to my family. And I remember being young in Argentina in the 70s, and everybody was doing fondue. Cheese fondue, when I had all the parties with my friends, we were having cheese fondue or chocolate fondue. The meat fondue, I never had it until I came to the United States. I was introduced to the meat fondue when I came to the United States. So I started asking my mom and my aunt for recipes of different sauces that can go well with the meat when you cook for the meat fondue. And none of them have ever had meat fondue. It's one of my daughter's favorite dish. Every single birthday, she will ask for meat fondue. So we decided to introduce them to the meat fondue, and each of them prepared 3 sauces of the 9 sauces that are in the book. I have a total of 21 sauces. I don't never make the 21 altogether. I think the maximum I have made is 15 one day, but I have plenty of time to do it. But it's a very interesting way of eating, because everybody share the pot where you fry the meat or you boil the meat, depending your healthy habits. Or on the chocolate, you can put fruit or cake. And we have a tradition in my family. You want to say the tradition?
The tradition is that if you're whatever you're cooking inside of the fondue, if it falls in and it falls off your skewer, you have to kiss the person to your left.
Really?
There was a lot of kissing when you eat fondue.
I mean, I know fondue is you put it in the middle of the table and everybody can dip into it.
Right.
And of course, the cheese fondue and the chocolate fondue, I think, was Switzerland.
Yes, they are both basically. The cheese fondue is originally of Switzerland, and the chocolate fondue too. The meat fondue, I couldn't find where it started. As I said, I eat it for the first time here in the United States. Um, and you can use meat, beef, or chicken or pork, depending what you can. Some places they put fish for people who doesn't, do fish, but not meat. That you can either put it in oil and fry it, or if you want a healthier cooking, you do a broth and you put some spices in the broth, and mushrooms and other different things that gave some spicy to the broth where you're cooking your meat. And then you dip it in the different sauces.
Have you ever dipped strawberries into the chocolate fondue?
Yes, that was one of my favorites, was dipping the fruit into the chocolate fondue.
Strawberries in chocolate fondue. Yummy, yummy.
I like the orange on the chocolate fondue.
Yeah.
Remember what you like the best, Camila? You like the cake the best.
Cake.
Why not? I mean, your recipes, Dr. Pat, I mean, can they be used, can people who have got, vegetarians, adapt them? Can people who are vegan adapt them? Can people who have got, let's say, diabetes, can all your recipes be adapted? Different people.
Not all of them. Argentina is a meat country, so it's not a friendly country to the vegan. Things are changing, of course. So yeah, on the empanadas you can do the cheese or the spinach empanadas. The gnocchi, of course, is vegetarian. It's potatoes and flour. I guess not the other ones that I can think of. But one of the main things for me about the book, this is not just a cookbook. It was a way to, I think it's an art that we have lost. The fact that cooking with your grandmother. When I was a child, I would cook with my grandmother almost daily. They live one block or in the front of the house. So I want them to be exposed to cooking with your grandmother, cooking as a family thing, doing cooking. And I like that to take away from the book, that maybe parents or grandparents can use these recipes and cook with their kids and grandkids.
Yes, it's a book to involve the family and for young children to understand where the origins of these recipes came from, and to, work, and to put the recipes together and enjoy food. That's what your book is about, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is personal stories, the stories of the recipes, in the recipes itself. And as I said, I mean, for me, they're very good.
Okay, so
Cook with them was such a pleasure.
So did you enjoy sharing the recipes and the cooking experiences with your granddaughters?
I enjoyed tremendously. It was and then we invite my daughter and my son-in-law, and we serve the meal that they cook. So they were able to give their parents something that they made. Did you enjoy cooking with me?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I loved just like coming over to your house. It was so much fun. And then after we like made something, we would always invite like my parents, and we would have like this really big dinner, and it was always so much fun. And like I looked forward to it because we did it a lot for a really long time.
Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And I remember a lot of the times after we made something, we would usually get to like stay over, spend the night, and that was always a lot of fun that I got to spend like quality time with her and stuff.
And we have some failures sometimes. We did a flan with Camila that did not turn out too good, so we'll never make it into the book.
Do you know where some of the world's best recipes came from?
For me, probably Italy. But I'm biased.
Some of the best recipes, they were failed meals, and somebody thought, that's an idea. We'll do that again. They sat down around the table And the guests thought, oh, this is lovely. That's where stews came from. That's where a lot of recipes came from having to throw a cheap meal together, and also from something going wrong.
That's true. And I read that soup was probably the first dish when the primitive man decided to put in boiling water and put things inside, and the soup was created. That's what I read, that soup is probably one of the first dishes when we start cooking.
Now, when you and I, Dr. Pat, had a chat a week ago, you said to me, oh, I'm not going to write another book. But I hear that you've changed your mind. Are you and Camila going to tell me the story here?
You want to tell the story? You want me to tell?
You can tell.
Well, when we were talking about the book, and she said, I was in very little of these dishes, and I don't remember much because she was very, very young. I decided that I'm going to start cooking with Camila now, and so maybe there will be another book in the future.
Let's hope so, everyone. Who do you see, Pat, reading your book, or who would you like to see reading your book? Men, women, kids? Who?
Everybody that wants to cook with children. I will encourage that piece, cooking with your grandchildren or cooking with your children.
So really,
so much fun.
Yeah, so really this is a book, everybody, for grandparents, probably parents, but grandparents probably got more time cooking with their grandchildren, and grandchildren spending time with their grandparents.
That was the main idea behind the book for me.
Yes. Where can people get your book from?
They can either buy it from the publisher with its exquisite, or you can get it in Amazon, and you go to Amazon and search Cooking for Tita, and there's the book.
I know. Absolutely.
That's a beautiful, beautiful.
Very good.
Which the picture in the book, in the cover of the book, was chosen by the girls, not by me.
This is a question really for your granddaughters. Do you enjoy cooking? And has this experience encouraged you to cook healthily?
Yeah, I think this is like cooking with Tita was like the first time like I remember like making something. So I don't know, it was just like it's like kind of where it like started, and so now I really enjoy cooking because I'll remember cooking with her.
Yeah, I definitely cook. I think I cook a lot more now. Like sometimes I'll make a few dinners, or like sometimes I'll bake like a few desserts or whatever, or some things. And and I think this has definitely like encouraged me to like cook a lot more, like maybe like by myself or like sometimes with like other people. Like cooking.
Yeah. Even Camila likes cooking.
Yeah. And I think it's equally as important for young boys to cook.
That's true. I just only have 3 granddaughters.
But yeah, it's just as important for young boys to learn to cook. It's important and it's fun. And just accept your mistakes and just try again, because there'll be many mistakes.
Yeah. As I said, the flan that Camila and I did was a complete bust.
Yes, I think one of the best ones is, and we've all done it, yes, we've put the dinner in the oven and come to get the dinner out and realize we haven't put the oven on. We've all done it.
Yeah. Yes, we have.
Or we put something in the oven and forgotten about it and then remembered it, smoke coming out the oven, and you open the oven. And
That is not more common too.
Oh. Yeah. That's not going to the table. Anyway, Dr. Pat, Liana, Amaya, Camila, it's been great fun chatting to you all about this book, Cooking with Tita. And it's a book for probably grandparents to spend time with their grandchildren, both granddaughters and grandsons, learning how to cook, learning about food, where it comes from, and its history. But enjoy the book. It's absolutely fascinating. And I've actually got, because I've got the version on my computer, I've actually downloaded one of the recipes, and I just might have a go at doing the, which one do you think I was going to do, girls?
Milanesas.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite.
Yeah.
Correct.
There you go.
They're correct. And but when you look at the book, everybody, there are the photographs of what it should turn out like, beautifully modeled by the girls. But there you go.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on my show. It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a
Thank you,
pleasure talking
girls.
to you.
I'm JT Crowley. Thanks for listening wherever you are in the world. Until next time, stay safe.